options as I see them for the RADXL publication process, and we kind of have to decide on the source of truth for if the data is going to be in the web portal or a Word doc. I want to point out that the statuses we can record in the portal regardless, so there's kind of a hybrid. So first, walking through the web portal, if this was kind of the current spec, if they submit the fields in the portal and there's a key down here, you can see that could be either no login in green or required by a login in red. The initial specs for that are going to be the writing team lead, the WTL, so it would be red, required login, but we could make that open to anyone can submit that in the portal. The data would go into the portal and there would be a submitted table that is up to date. You could then update in the portal. Those are all red, and that was going to be the WTL, the writing team lead. Again, that live table is up to date. And through these updates, you have auto emails that go out with the data. There's a landing page that's open to everyone, and then there's a support request form that the spec had. Again, the WTL did it behind the password, but that could be open to anyone. And then there's some amorphous what other reporting might come. We don't know. Is it more than this table? So that's kind of through the portal what we would do. And I'd point out, if we do it this way, once you submit the data in the portal, you can when you get the email, you get it as an attachment, as a text file, and if you open that in Word, you could start doing tracking in a Word document, and that could just be done offline. So if the desire is for an outside person to just be able to track in Word, you would have the Word document, but that would not be the authoritative source of truth, right? You have to kind of decide which one is it. And so whenever it was determined through the Word tracking that was done and an update needed to be made, someone would update it here. Ideally, that would be the WTL with their login or a data manager, whoever has access to do that, hopefully from that project. So going the other way, if you make the Word tracking, a Word document, the authoritative source of truth, you could have them fill that out, insert that into the portal fields, and I made this dash because that's optional. You could just not do any of this. But if you insert it in the portal fields, you would again have that table, but that table would not instantly, but as soon as a change was made in the Word document, become out of date. So a question remains of what is the purpose of this table that they would see? You would be changing things in Word. This table would represent the initial moment. And another way to do this is, instead of starting in the Word document, you could start with submitting it in the fields. Even if you go the Word tracking document, I would recommend that, because you've submitted it in the fields, then you create the Word document from that, and so at least you know from the starting point it's the same as what was submitted. Otherwise, if there's transcription errors, you start with the Word tracking document and type stuff in. As this is edited, if it's entered in wrong here, what's listed in this table out of date is always out of date until the end. So as an example, let's say we have 3 that we're working on. If someone entered them all in but swapped titles, for example, that would be out of date in this table, and we wouldn't know as we're tracking here, right? And then at the end of when you've decided you're done tracking the Word document, you could update the data in the portal. So here are all those views together. And we kind of have to decide what is the source of truth, what is required, what's behind or not behind a login, and then this flow chart should very easily say what we can do, right? I would point out, if we're going, I just heard about this kind of Word tracking process as the last thing that might be the plan. If we're going to do that, it seems like none of the portal is really needed aside from statuses. You just record a few statuses in the portal whenever you want, and it's all a Word document offline. You do lose, all these things in red. So the business has to decide, I thought we'd gotten to the point where the WTL was required to have a login and we were going this route. And the big decision is an email, do you need a password at what step, right? If you need a password to change the initial document, then that will go up here in the web portal. If you don't need a login to change the initial submission, then it sounds like we're doing it in a Word track document, because we don't want Jane Doe to edit John Doe's. So those are the options as I see them, and decisions just have to be made.